This rant was going to be about the zombie genre, but it's evolved into the subject of oversaturation. But for the most part, I will be using the zombie genre as a major example. So remember when zombie games weren't as common as they are now? Or when there wasn't zombie DLC add-ons or games that had zombie expansion packs that remade the game itself into an alternate version of its original? Ever since the start of the 7th gen, there's been no end of zombie games. But let's turn back the clock by several generations. We had Doom, which had zombie humans. There was Zombies Ate My Neighbors. Zombie games weren't very common, which isn't that much of a surprise. They weren't a popular genre, even though there have been several zombie movies out there. Resident Evil, a game that was about survival horror, did inject interest into the zombie genre. After all, the T-virus is what turned people into zombies, and that first zombie turning around to look at you is an iconic moment in gaming. Resident Evil became known as the king of zombie games. You wanted zombies? You played Resident Evil. Movies like the Dawn of the Dead remake, which obviously took a page from 28 Days Later, brought in the rage zombies. Zombies that ran after you instead of being the shambling horrors that they're usually seen as. Then the 7th generation came about. Shortly after, Dead Rising was released to critical acclaim. Capcom once again breathed new life into the zombie game genre. The hardware at the time was able to show massive zombie hordes being rendered on screen at once. It was a startling achievement, as at least to my knowledge, no game has done that before. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. Then there was Left 4 Dead, a game that brought in the hordes of rage zombies in a 4-player co-op first-person shooter while throwing in Resident Evil zombie-like mutations. Red Dead Redemption was given the Undead Nightmare expansion that was even released as its own standalone game. Call of Duty had a zombie expansion for quite a few of the games released during the time, starting with World at War, Black Ops 1, 2, and 3, Advanced Warfare, and even Infinite Warfare. But now it seems zombie games are going the way of the dodo. The amount that have gotten mainstream attention are scarce. While shit developers on Steam continue to flood Greenlight and the Steam store with zombie survival games, but it seems that zombie games have finally run their course, and most developers have realized this. Activision hasn't yet because Call of Duty still gets its zombie expansions, but then there's Konami, who have not only shown their obliviousness, but are now wearing it happily on their sleeves. They're trying to get into the zombie survival game with Metal Gear Survive, a game that looks laughably stupid, where even Hideo Kojima, a man whose Metal Gear games are so batshit insane with their stories to the point where even the Joker wouldn't get them, he had to question how zombies work in a Metal Gear game. Even Capcom knew that zombies were on their way out. Resident Evil didn't have zombies, at least in the traditional sense, and even proved they didn't give much of a shit with the Umbrella Corps. It's obvious that oversaturation is what killed the zombie genre. It's not the first time this ever happened though. When Guitar Hero came out, there was a huge boom in that type of rhythm game. Guitar Hero was the king of it, and then Rock Band came out, and Activision went full retard and released a bunch of them in 2009 and 2010, effectively killing the series and the entire genre itself. The same thing happened with zombie games. People got tired of them being made by so many other developers with a ton of shit ones on Steam. But then you may ask, why hasn't the first-person genre died out? Well, it's obvious. There's only two companies that have a death grip on that genre: Activision and Electronic Arts, with Call of Duty and Battlefield respectively. And you can even toss Overwatch in there, as Blizzard is owned by who? Activision Blizzard, the parent company of Activision and Blizzard. And with Activision controlling the most popular first-person shooters out there, they could control the genre more, and that way control the market on first-person shooters. But we've seen EA screw this up as they released Titanfall 2 a week after Battlefield 1 and before Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, effectively putting it in competition with not only their own big FPS game, but Activision's as well. And despite what many people believe, oversaturation is what caused the video game crash of 1983. There were too many different consoles offering different games, and too many games which were mostly shovelware. It was oversaturation that nearly killed the zombie genre. It's still around, but you can see that the industry itself has temporarily learned its lesson once again. I say temporarily because that doesn't stop the publishers and developers from chasing trends. Currently, the toys to life market is facing oversaturation as well. Disney gave up on Disney Infinity after the release of LEGO Dimensions due to there being too much competition, as there was Skylanders and Amiibo as well. While Amiibo are more like peripherals that are accessories to other games, Skylanders, Disney Infinity, and LEGO Dimensions focus on being a full game. The problem Disney Infinity had was oversaturation. You could go to any store and find shelves of figures. I remember going to several Toys R Us stores and seeing entire aisles dedicated to figures from the first Disney Infinity, while the second one was out for months and even the third one too. Skylanders is more controlled, as they release in waves. Nintendo kept stock of Amiibo low, but also screwed up by oversaturating their own market. With figures everyone could easily get until they later produced more of the ones people wanted due to the ones they made most of not selling. LEGO Dimensions seems to be following in Disney's footsteps, as I can't not see walls of level, character, and story packs for LEGO Dimensions sitting on shelves and collecting dust. And with the game itself, with a ton of story, level, and character packs being butt-ass expensive, is the only reason why I haven't picked up that game. I'm not paying $50 for a story pack, I'm not paying $30 for a level pack, I'm not paying $25 for a team pack, or $12 for a fun pack. Success follows success. After Pokemon, there was Digimon, Monster Rancher, and Metabots. After Yu-Gi-Oh, there was Beyblade, Bakugan, and something like that Crossfire game where you shoot balls out of a toy's mouth. You get the idea. Something successful came out and other companies tried copying it. I think that out of everything I mentioned, Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh are still around and immensely popular, while Digimon has been regulated to a niche market type of thing, which is sad because I like Digimon. But the other things that I mentioned have pretty much died out because they didn't realize what made what they were copying special. But then something like Yokai Watch comes out, which I've been told that it's like Pokemon, and it's insanely popular in Japan. But here in America, it's not really that popular from what I've seen. I've heard in some areas that it's popular, but in my area, store shelves are stocked with this merchandise and not selling. And while we've got 2 out of the 3 games, and I've been hearing good things about them and that has potential to grow, but since the whole collect sentient life and make it battle genre burned out here in the States due to the aforementioned oversaturation, people seem to be more content with just playing Pokemon. And sometimes when success follows success, it works, like Sonic, who was created to replace Alex Kidd as Sega's mascot as he couldn't compete with Mario. Sonic was created to be in direct competition with Nintendo's mascot, and you want to know why it worked? Because Sonic offered a gameplay experience that Mario didn't. And because of Sonic's success is why we saw so many furry mascot platformers in the 4th generation. Other companies saw Sonic's success and wanted it, so they threw as many woodland critters out there to see what would stick. And that's what causes oversaturation. It's the inability of recreating that spark of wowness. When Pokemon came out with Red and Blue on the Game Boy, it created a phenomenon as it blew up in popularity. Then came the anime, then toys, and the card game, and more games and spin-offs. But the creator of Pokemon and Nintendo didn't even think that it was going to go anywhere and that it would fail, because at the time the Game Boy was losing popularity. But then you have people come in, see that success, and try to recreate it. But instead of seeing the humble beginnings, they already plan out the franchise in advance. Remember how the makers of Action 52 wanted the Cheetah Men to be the next Ninja Turtles? They saw the success of the Turtles and tried to recreate that. But I'm going to slightly rework a quote that Dr. Ian Malcolm said in Jurassic Park. Don't you see the danger inherent in what you're doing here? Franchise power is the most awesome force the market has ever seen, but you wield it like a kid that's found his dad's gun. The franchise power you're using here, it didn't take any discipline to attain it. You saw what others had done and you skipped the steps they took. You didn't earn the knowledge for yourself, so you don't take any responsibility for it. You stood on the shoulders of marketing to accomplish something as fast as you could, and before you even knew what you had, you patented it, you packaged it, and you slapped it on a plastic lunchbox, and now you're selling it. You want to sell it because your marketing team was so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop and think if they should.